Hi, everyone. My name is Noelle. I'm a fourth year medical student here in the US. Today, I wanted to talk to you guys about 10 tips I found to be successful on your rotations as both a third and fourth year. Please let me know if these tips are helpful for you. Tip number one, find a good pair of fitting scrubs. Make sure that they are breathable as you'll be running around the hospital either for half days up to full 24-hour shifts, especially as a third year. You're going to want to make sure your scrubs are comfortable, breathable, and look well and professional. I have noticed sometimes people wear like baggier scrubs. It's not as professional looking. It gives off kind of like a non-polished look. If you can find form-flattering scrubs, even if you have to invest a little bit more money, I think it's well worth it. Brands that I think are great are Janu scrubs, Grey's Anatomy scrubs, and I do like Fig scrubs, but I'm a DO student, so they had a kind of a scandal with DOs a couple years ago, so I don't ever buy them directly because of it. But yeah, I think it's very important to have good attire while you're working these long hours in the hospital. So tip number two is keep your white coat in good condition. I know that sometimes on hospital rotations, you can opt out wearing the white coat. We all know that it makes you look kind of dorky, especially the school issued ones are usually not flattering. I tend to wear mine a lot because one, I get cold really easily. Um, so it just helps for layers. But two, it helps people kind of identify who you are more. And sometimes, yes, it can be a double-edged sword if like a patient doesn't really want to see students and then they see you in your dorky white coat. But also, I just think from personal experience that I tend to just prefer wearing mine. But I try to keep it clean. I try to wash it at least once a week, just to like keep stains off of it and keep it looking fresh. Mine doesn't tend to wrinkle too bad either. So, but if yours does, like just quick ironing, maybe during the weekend when you're not working, just to keep it polished. Again, going with like the first impressions matter, kind of like what I was saying about the scrubs. So, yeah. So, tip number three is to keep an open mind and also remain humble. I know this is very cliche advice, but I think it's literally the cornerstone of being a good medical student and getting consistently good reviews from your attendings. Any sort of medical student who comes in with like a cocky attitude, a lot of attendings will even say that they don't think that those kind of students are very teachable and will have a negative opinion about them. I've seen this firsthand, and I've even had attendings tell me that they will like not even consider students who come into their rotation with an attitude or with any sort of like I know everything kind of vibe. They will not even consider them for like interviews, or they'll like mark them down as like, well, we don't really want this person in our program because when you have an attitude of I know everything already, or like have like too much arrogance, they perceive it, like I said, as unteachable. So when you become a resident, or even a fellow, like they're like, well, how are we supposed to teach a person to like learn that they make mistakes, and how are we supposed to teach a person when they think they know it all already? So it's really important to remember your place. Honestly, like we're all students, we really don't know a lot. Even if you read the entire first aid or any of our resources, like you still do not know how to clinically practice medicine until you've been in attending. So that with that said, that's really important, but also an open mind is really important, especially as third year when you have your core rotations. So we all know like people are like surgical brained or not surgical brained. For me, I'm not surgical brained, so I wasn't really fond of general surgery, and I really did not like OB-GYN. Um, but I already knew that I was not going to like those specialties. However, I did keep an open mind on my rotations. I like did what I had to do. I thought, well, maybe my preconceived notions are incorrect. I should just follow with the motions and see if I might end up liking this specialty. So, yes, we can all have stereotypes coming into our different rotations, but it's important that you kind of push those aside to really fully examine, do you like this rotation and specialty, with no bias whatsoever. Tip number 4, go to those morning rounds, noon reports, morning report, whatever extra learning opportunities you have on your rotations. I highly suggest going to them, especially if that's in the field that you're interested in. So, of course, for like IM, they have tons of that. But even when you're on some of your rotations inpatient, they may have conferences in different specialties like endocrinology, nephrology, surgery conferences. And if you can find the schedule for those during your lunch hour and you're available, and that's the subject you're interested in, I highly suggest putting your face out there, especially if you're interested in that particular residency program. Um, Going to those shows that you're a dedicated student, that you're continuously trying to learn, even on your rotations around your clinical duties, especially when you do sub-Is. So I've been sort of surprised on my rotations as a sub-I that when I go to morning report first thing in the morning, that I'm not really seeing the other rotating sub-Is there. And I think it's really important if you're especially applying to that program to be going to the didactics that they go to as well. Not only is it giving you more face time with the program and getting to meet all of the residents on the team because all of them are required to go to these didactics. You also get to see, do you like the teaching style that's offered at this program besides the clinical part of medicine? Do you also like the presentations they give, the case reports? Do you feel like the training that you're getting in these lectures is adequate, or does it leave a lot left to be desired? Also, when you're going to these, I see a lot of people on their phones, and you don't really see the residents on their phones unless they're like on call or getting paged or something like that. I think it's also important that the people who are teaching you are aware of like what you're doing. So if you're attending these things and you're just playing on your phone the entire time, I don't think that really gives a good vibe off to that program as well, that you seem interested and invested in your learning. So when you go to these didactics, I think it's important to remain off your phone if you can, seem interested, even take notes if you're interested in what's going on. Just be engaged and be present. Number 5, be honest. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with your medical students, your residents, and your attending. I can't stress this enough. Be honest with yourself, meaning like, what are you really capable of at this point? And kind of going along with like the humbling is like, are you kind of in over your head? Do you need help? Don't be afraid to ask others for help, even if it's other med students, residents. It's better to ask for help than to not, in my opinion. Also, I feel like this is a controversial thing, so you can either agree or disagree with me. But I was also honest in my third year of my interests. So when, the first day comes around and the attending's like, oh, what do you think you want to do? And it's like a general surgeon and you have no interest in surgery, instead of thinking, or saying, "Oh, maybe I want to do general surgery," when you know that you don't, I was honest with them. I said, "Well, like I'm going to keep an open mind, but I don't really think surgery is for me. I think I want to do internal medicine." And I know people tell you not to say that and that they're going to write you a bad review for that. I never got a bad review. In fact, all of my reviews were good from people that I literally flat out told that I had no interest in their specialty or that I wasn't really interested in their specialty. OB-GYN, I flat out told the residents and the attending that I really did not have an interest in this field at all. I even told one of the residents that was really cool that it was my least favorite spot on my list of specialties. Now, I said that in a very joking manner after I've been like with that resident for a while. I knew that he was cool about it. But at the end of the day, I feel like my honesty paid off because my review that I received from the residents and the attending, they noted that, hey, she even told us that she wasn't really interested in this field, but she still worked hard or even harder than medical students that even said that they were interested in this field. And so it kind of gave them like a different perspective that like, oh, the student said she wasn't interested, but like she worked really hard and she like put in extra effort and she did all these extra things despite not wanting to do this field at all. So I felt like that was actually like a good thing in a way that I was real with them. So um, like I said, some people tell you not to do this, but it's really up to you and what you think and like how you can read the room. So number 6 should kinda go without saying. Treat everybody that you encounter, whether it be the custodial worker, a nurse, a CNA, whoever you work with or interact with, whether it be in stairwell, in the elevator, asking questions at the nursing station, even in the cafeteria. Just, like, treat everyone well. You know, I like to try to say good morning to everybody that passes me by in the morning. I try to make small talk sometimes with people in the elevators. I tell everybody to have a good day if I'm like, interacting with them for a little bit of time. I just think that you don't know who they know or how important they are sometimes. And treating like especially the nursing staff and like CNAs and speech pathologists and all of those like with a lot of respect and treating them like you're equal and not like talking down to them, especially because as a student, we really cannot talk down to anybody. We're on like the lowest of the low. So just like treating everybody as your equal can go a long way and it can help you befriend nurses and other staff who can make your life easier on rotations or clinic. So, number 7, always offer to do more than to do less. Try not to ask to go home, especially as like a 4th year. I know that we all kind of know what we want to do, and we still have to do some requirements for the school. And you do start to get senioritis. Like right now, it's November 1st, and I'm already kind of like checking out a little bit. But at the same time, like, don't let that affect your performance on rotations because they're still really important and you're still getting graded. And you just keep wanting to like maintain a good image and impression and also like for your own learning. I mean, you're paying to be there, you're paying to work. So put in that work. Ask if you can help in other ways. One of my biggest examples, I guess, that really like made me stick out during my nephrology rotation at a very prestigious facility was that I like even wanted to follow the fellow for urine microscopies. And it was a kind of a dirty job where I had to go in the patient's room and collect fresh urine samples. And I had to put them in my white coat and I had to carry them down to the lab and spin the urine. But I think the fellow really appreciated my interest in wanting to learn how to do that. It was a cool experience. I got to see like acute tubular necrosis under the microscope and just see how they actually go about that procedure. So just like putting in like a little extra effort. I mean, that was like a 10-minute extra thing. It was just like collecting urine, which is honestly not that hard. Even like little small things like that, or like on your neurology saying like, oh, hey, can you show me like what an EMG looks like? Or can you show me how to interpret EEGs or your cardiology rotation? Like, hey, I know that I'm with you, but can I like go watch a procedure with the interventional cardiologist? Like showing that you want to like continue pursuing your learning and even wanting to see some of like the procedural stuff or like more nuanced niche stuff in that specialty. I think will open doors for you and like really shows the attending and the residents that like while a student not only is like doing what they have to do but is expressing interest in something more than that. Rule number 8 kind of coincides with what I was saying with rule number 7 about the urine microscopies, actually. So it's basically don't ever think that any task is truly beneath you or that you have to ask some lower staff to do for you. That just, again, kind of perpetuates the image of arrogance. So while I was collecting the urine samples, a couple weeks into my rotation, I got new interns on my service. And one of the interns was asked by the fellow if we could go collect urine microscopy samples, of which I agreed to, and I started heading over there. Well, the intern came with me and he basically was like, "Well, let's just get the nurse to do it because this is a task that's beneath us and that we don't have to do this as doctors." Um, I didn't think that was a correct opinion. I think that we shouldn't overburden our nurses with work that we're completely capable of doing. And I don't think that these kind of tasks are beneath us. We have to remember where we're coming from as well. So, like, always just be down for whatever, honestly. I mean, it shows that you're a more adaptable student and will fit in more as a team in your residency position. Number nine, do not be afraid to say, I don't know. It kind of goes along with the whole like being humble kind of vibe as a student. Don't be afraid to say, I don't know, I'll look it up later, or I'm not sure. Could you elaborate? Or could you teach me on this? Or can you do a presentation on this? Because sometimes residents or attendings will use stuff that medical students do not know on teaching rounds as an opportunity to give a lecture about it later on. So it's important to indicate to people if you're not sure on something. Um, if you have some sort of idea of what's going on, you can try to explain it or use like background knowledge. But if you are really truly like stumped, like have no idea what they're talking about, do not BS your answer. Do not like make something up out of thin air. They will know because I'm telling you that when they ask the question, they know the answer, of course. So they can tell you if you're like making an educated, reasonable guess or decision on management, or if you're just pulling something out of your butt. So definitely don't be afraid to admit when you're wrong or when you don't know something. So number 10, which is truly like my number one thing, if I could like reach out to you and have you do as a third or fourth year, is to carry one of these around. Um, I don't know many people that do at all. In fact, like most of the time, I never see students carrying around a little journal. But this has been like completely invaluable to me, not only for studying, for steps, and for shelf exams, but taking notes on rounds, taking notes of clinical pearls. And I even use this. This is how I like chart review and chart check or like whatever I'm doing, or like when I go see a clinic patient before the attending and present after. This is how like I write it down and process my thoughts before I present. So not only do I have like my presentations in here basically, but I have like all the clinical factoids that they tell on rounds or random things that my residents teach me. Everything is in these journals. I have like 10 of them at this point, and some rotations fill up an entire journal and some rotations don't, or they only fill up a little bit. And then you can see like how much are you really learning on that rotation. It's kind of a good evaluation of like your preceptor as well. Like, are you taking a lot of notes on what they're saying? Are they teaching you a lot? Or do you find yourself having more questions than answers? Um, I carry one in my white coat at all times. Sometimes I run out of paper and I have to go buy a new one on my rotations, like mid rotation. But having a journal has literally made my life so much easier. And honestly, I think I've only seen like one other student in my entire like time rotating carrying another journal. Not only are you like, is it helping you memorize things or remember facts? Because like you're not only just hearing it, but you're like writing it. So it's like two different ways of learning. But attendings love it. They love when you're carrying around a journal. They love when you're taking notes of like what they have to say. And even residents, like when you're jotting down like information that they're saying, I think that that shows that you're really invested in what they're saying. It's so much so that you think it's important to write it down. You're invested in learning about whatever they're talking about because you're taking notes on it. I also use these during didactics, like morning report or noon conference. um, instead of being on my phone or just staring off into space, I try to take notes on like anything that I find is like relevant to the case that I may or may not know already. So if I could recommend anything out of the 10 things I've said, carry around a journal. They're like $5. probably less at Walmart, to be honest. Carry a journal. Like, I just feel like it's made a substantial difference for me. So I hope that all of these things have helped you. This video is a lot longer than I thought it would be, but I was trying to be really genuine about my experiences, and I really want other medical students to succeed and get consistently good rotation evaluations so that not only can they be a better student, but to help them when they apply for residency. So, like I said, let me know which one of these was like most helpful for you, if any. Feel free to argue with me, like whatever you want to do. So, thank you for your time.